promised, I want to talk about relationships. Now, looking out in the audience, how many of you here have a professional relationship with at least one other person in this room? Look to your left and right. I think everybody here works on an everyday basis with everyone else here. Now, that's a very, very important part of the media world. And the truth is that these relationships exist whether or not they're present in a real-time auction. Back when we built the Right Media system and did the first ever auction of an ad, the whole point of auctions was to make sure that it was completely fair, that it didn't matter which salesperson sold a deal, and that just because one person liked the trafficker, they couldn't get more media than someone else who didn't. And that's great in certain cases. But in reality, that's not how the world works. The way the real world works is that people who have more heft get better deals. So I have a prop to indicate this. So if you haven't had sriracha, this is perhaps the world's best hot sauce. And so we call it rooster sauce. AppNexus consumes cases of this stuff every week. It's amazing how much sriracha we buy. Now, we used to have an employee, Steve Giacomelli, who every time we ran out of one bottle, which would take us a month, he would go online and go to eBay and try to buy a bottle of hot sauce. And we'd pay list price, or pretty close to it, because, who's AppNexus? But nowadays, now that we're, 550 people drinking cases of this stuff, it was time to get a better deal. So we didn't go on eBay. What we did was we called the people who provide our snacks, and we said, listen, we want to buy in bulk. And they gave us a good deal. But then we thought about it and said, hey, we spend $700,000 a year on snacks. That's a real stat. How about this? If you don't give us a good deal on the sriracha, we're taking all of our Cliff Bar business and all of our Pop Chips business and all of our everything business somewhere else. And let me tell you, we got a heck of a deal on sriracha. Now, that's how the real world works. In the media world, we know that larger organizations get better deals. If you're Group M, you can walk in and say, we want a better deal than you give anybody else because we're bigger. And in fact, if you don't give us what we want, we'll take our business elsewhere. Now, publishers have power too. If you're running the final episode of Breaking Bad, you can say, fine, I've only got so many ad slots, and if you don't want to pay up, you can take your business elsewhere. Try the Super Bowl, or maybe the Olympics in 3 years. But this is the biggest thing happening in TV right now. So I think the lesson there is that the guy who makes sriracha should do a better job of negotiating for himself. Because the honest truth is, we have no alternatives. It's the only rooster sauce out there. Now, what this means for us in the real-time bidding world is that the auction isn't going to work for us now that we have the largest media companies in the world buying and selling media. We need better ways to bring the real-life relationships you all have and the real-life heft and assets you have into the programmatic world. Many of you have probably played with Deal ID, which is the initial industry attempt at this. So Deal ID solves some of the problems. It's a very inefficient way of doing this, but it's a first step. And it's been very nice to see the traction that Deal ID has gotten because it kind of proves the point that everyone wants ways to bring all of their heft to the table. Now, it's not the best possible way, but it is something that we're committed to supporting because we believe that AppNexus should support all industry standards. So some of you have been doing beta testing. We've learned a lot from that. We've worked very closely with our partners, Google, Pubmatic, and Rubicon, to make these integrations even more efficient and effective so that they work every time. And so I'm pleased to announce general availability of our Deal ID support for all the buyers across the AppNexus platform. It's a big deal, and we're glad to be part of it. But that said, I'm not satisfied. Yeah, absolutely. But there's more. Deal ID is just the first step. So when we hired Pat McCarthy, who was just out here back in, I guess we acquired his company, technically. My big idea for Pat was that he and I have been playing fantasy sports together for 10 years. We love playing fantasy football. He'll never take my trades. But there's this great interface where you can go online and propose, like, I'll trade you Adrian Peterson for Peyton Manning. He writes back and says, I hate you. And we go down this path of trying to negotiate. This is a great representation of how deals are made in an online, flexible way. We even tried fantasy golf. And pretty much, if you have Tiger Woods, you win. And if you don't have Tiger Woods, you lose. Or at least that's how it was like 8 years ago. It wasn't very fun. Why can't we have that same level of robust interaction and give and take in the programmatic negotiation that we can in other consumerized negotiations online. There is a precedent for this, in other words. And so we actually set out, we had a small team build a prototype of what a trading, negotiating model would look like. And because it takes two people to create a relationship, we called it Tango. It takes two to tango. And we piloted this in France and Germany in the summer, in July. We got great feedback. We found that the ability to be more than just an ID, but actually to discuss and negotiate and see in real time how the relationship was working was extremely valuable. And so we decided, based on our experiences with our pilot, to roll this out more broadly across the platform. So here to talk about the future of real-time relationships, my little sister, Suzanne O'Kelly.
Thanks, Brian. So as Brian mentioned, we launched our Tango pilot in Germany and France this summer. And we chose those markets because, as you know, if you've worked in any of the small European markets, those guys really know each other deeply. Their relationships go way back. I wouldn't be surprised if they were trading lunches back and forth on the playground back in grade school. And those relationships continue today. They have really deep relationships in all different channels, across geos. They're just looking for different ways to work together. And so when we chose France and Germany, we felt like we had a pretty good sense that we didn't have to do any work on the relationship aspect. All we had to do was provide the tools, and the rest would follow. So when we told these folks, we picked about 8 customers in all of the markets together. And we told them, hey, we're going to try some partnership tools. We'd love your feedback. Before we even launched anything, these guys started getting together, having breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert. They were really sitting down and trying to figure out, what should we do? How are we going to use this product? How are we going to get the most out of it? So we weren't surprised when we launched it, and we saw really, really great adoption right off the bat. We saw the activity stream. This is a place where people could carry on conversations and chat about what they wanted to see. We saw this blow up. We saw lots of deals go back and forth. So almost every single partner who participated in the pilot made at least one deal with every other partner that they had access to. So that was a really great sign. And we also saw a pretty significant increase in spend between preferred partners who were doing more business together with the Tango product. And the spend increase wasn't necessarily a surprise in and of itself. We were giving people more ways to do business with one another. So of course, they're going to spend more. But what we didn't know that we were going to see was after the pilot started to ramp down and deals started to expire, those spend levels continued to stay at the level that they were when the deals were active. And you might be thinking, well, maybe these guys didn't know they were on console. But I think it's actually kind of gets to the core of partnerships. So in RTB, you have a bunch of different levers that you can sort of manipulate. If you're a buyer, you don't have to think about the seller that you're buying from at all. You can just set up a geo and a segment and all these different things, set it live, and the impressions will flow. But what if concentrating your spend and your heft on partners who you can look in the eye and say, like, treat me right and I'll do well by you. If you can make that decision and say, I'm going to funnel my money towards people that I trust and I want to do more business with, those benefits are going to come back to you if they have the tools to really honor those relationships and give you special privileges based on those, that amount of spend. So I think that's what we saw here. We saw people actually making conscious decisions about where to spend their money based on partnerships and relationships that they wanted to deepen and to cultivate. So we learned a lot of really great things with this pilot. And my biggest takeaway personally was relationships are complicated. It's no wonder that Facebook has that status, in their system. Relationships aren't one size fits all. Some people want, kind of a long-term commitment. They want to get married. Other people want a quick fling. They have some campaign that just needs to go live right now in, these 5 domains, and who can satisfy that. And we really want to support all shapes and sizes of relationships. And that's why we're supporting Deal ID. We want to let people do these kind of, spur-of-the-moment, ephemeral deals. But we also want to give people the ability to make those deals and those decisions really add up to something bigger. So we're also introducing lots of high-level partnership agreement parameters where you can say, listen, you're spending a lot of money on me, and I would love to give you more transparency. And giving people tools to talk about that and to kind of leverage those benefits in our system. So we're taking all of the learnings from this pilot, from Tango, and we're excited to be incorporating them into our platform, into our system. We're actually re-architecting our whole system around partnerships and relationships. We think it's that important. And we're going to let you negotiate deals. We're going to let you find partners who are going to be a good fit for you, regardless of your shape or size. And we really think it's important. We've heard from a lot of you. We want to be able to differentiate. We want to be able to stand out from the crowd. And that's how you really find those people. Two people stand up, and you make eye contact, and the rest is history, right? So we're going to provide the product, and the rest is up to you. Thank you.